Welcome to an encore podcast presentation from ForbesBooks at ForbesBooks.com.
We are at the Global Crowdfunding Convention. We're at Planet Hollywood, the casino in Las Vegas. A lot of really fascinating stuff going on here. A lot of really interesting companies exhibiting, including Healora, which is at Healora.com, Healora.com. And I'm here with Thomas Farmer. And on his card, really simple card, really effective, these words jump off the page at you. Save 50% on healthcare procedures. Is there anybody who doesn't want to save 50% on healthcare procedures? Welcome, Thomas, and tell us about Healora. You got my attention.
Okay, great. Well, it's fun to be here. And for us, it's just as simple as that on the card. We focus on healthcare procedures. And so if you're riding on your skateboard and you fall off and injure your shoulder and you need a shoulder arthroscopy, it's pretty simple. You just look at your insurance and look at your deductible and say, okay, well, this shoulder arthroscopy is going to cost about $15,000, but my deductible is, let's say, $8,000. So look at Healora, find your doctor, see if you can pay cash and get it for less than $8,000. And in that case, with the doctor of your choice, rather than being forced to use the doctor that's in the network for your insurance.
This is really interesting, and I can see a couple of places where we can drill into this, and I'm not even sure where to start. Is that you made a point of mentioning cash. Is cash important in this equation, or is that just one example of how one can use and benefit from Healora?
Well, that is certainly one example. It's the main example. The reason that the prices are 50 to 70% cheaper is because we're cutting out all of the middlemen. It's the administrative fees, middle layers, all of those costs that are really not related to providing the health care.
And is the cash going to you or to the doctor providing the service?
No, we connect the doctor and the patient together in a binary relationship, and then we get paid for that connection, that transaction.
So you're like eBay. You're like a marketplace in a sense.
In a sense.
I mean, I don't mean to put you in the same category as eBay because you're in a very specific niche, or you're like Airbnb. I mean, you're enabling me to find a doctor that will negotiate a price with me in this manner. Or create a pricing here that cuts out the middleman.
Exactly, and I might want to even say more like a true car. In other words, in a sense, the doctors are listing their cash prices the way that TrueCar gets the dealers to list their prices. And so the negotiation or the auction really comes from finding out that, the guy down the road is selling his cars for, less. Let me see if I can match that price. So it's not a direct auction thing with the patient, because I don't think the patient is ready to have an eBay with his doctor. And certainly the doctor's not really ready to do that either.
But you are cutting out the middlemen, and all the doctors who are on your site have agreed that is a productive way for them to engage with patients.
Absolutely.
And that's really the value proposition for the patient.
Absolutely. The doctors love us. And let me give you a quick example.
Sure.
We had a patient that was quoted $16,000 with insurance with a deductible of $5,000. And a nationally recognized Healora doctor did that procedure for $2,700. And by cutting out all those administrative fees and middle layers, the patient, was able to save up to 70%. Now, 2 points in that. Number one, when the doctor that received the $2,700, he actually made more money than the doctor who would have received the $16,000.
Because he got to keep it.
Yeah, well, he's not paying all those additional costs.
Yes.
And remember, when you do a procedure, generally there are three components. There's the facility charge, the anesthesia, and then the physician charge. So the physician only gets a small part of the cost. In fact, I have a little trivia question. Last year, out of the $3.2 trillion that was spent on healthcare, what percentage do you think went to doctor pay?
9.
Ooh, that's pretty good. The answer is 4.
4.
So it's not the doctors. The doctors are getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And
I think part of the service we can do is let's identify where some of that money goes for a minute, because I think that's it doesn't have to be. It is a black box, but it doesn't have to be a black box, right? I mean, somebody knows where that money's going, or you have a pretty good idea.
Well, not where all of it's going.
But you have a pretty good idea. You have suspicions, right?
Sure, of course. Well, I think the big players that we all know are the biggest middlemen, and number one is, of course, the insurance companies.
Yes.
And insurance companies serve a great function. I'm not a,
You're not here to vilify
enemy.
them.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, they serve a great function and need. I think that what's happened is the layers have built up so much because of so many different requirements, components, administratively, legally, all kinds of reasons, but it's gotten to the point where there's such a high percentage of those dollars that are really going to all the supporting elements to even hold up that administrative system. It's like it's like you've got the ladder there, but then you've got the supports for the ladder, and then under that the supports
for the supports and the
Yeah, so
it's Rube Goldberg-esque, right? I mean,
exactly.
Yeah. So I need this procedure let's use the example you gave. What was the injury? Remind me.
It was an upper and lower colonoscopy.
An upper and lower colonoscopy. The price through the insurance company is $16,000. My deductible is $5,000. So if I go with the insurance company's doctor, I'm out of pocket $5,000. They're out of pocket $11,000. Right? My math is good there. Or whatever there.
Yes, roughly.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know how to calculate their part, but it looks to me like it cost them $11,000 at least, right?
Exactly, and that's assuming that the employer is not self-funded. For so many employees, the 80%.
My company might be out of pocket as well.
Exactly.
Okay, so then we didn't even get to that yet, so I can see why companies love what you're doing too. But let's just stick with the patient for a sec. Instead of paying $5,000 for the $16,000 procedure, I paid $2,700.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
I just saved my math again, not so good. $2,300.
Correct.
Yeah. So
You got an A on
actually, yeah. Well, it took me longer than it should have, but it's why I'm in radio and not an actuary. So I just saved $2,300. I got the procedure from the doctor I wanted, presumably if he's or she is on Healora, and my company probably saved money.
Absolutely.
Does the insurance company care? Did they lose anything in this transaction?
No, the insurance company would love us. I think as soon as the word gets out there, imagine you're the insurance company. Let's take it from all parties' angles. If you're the insurance company, you're collecting premiums from the employer or the patient, from somebody, and the liability is yours. You're holding it as the insurance company. At some point, you're going to have to pay for those injuries or health care. So what if all of a sudden the patients determine, hey, I can go find procedures 7 out of 10 times for less than my deductible costs if I'm willing to just pay cash immediately.
Right.
And if that happens, now as an insurance company, you're collecting all these premiums, but you're not paying.
So now the only
out.
piece of paper you're filing is me showing you the receipt for the $2,700 I spent so that you're keeping track of my deductible.
Absolutely.
So the insurance company's not only not out money, they're actually saving money.
Oh, they're saving a ton of money. And we expect fairly soon that some of these insurance companies are going to come and say, hey, Healora, will you be an adjunct network
was
to
my
us?
next question, right? I mean, so who doesn't like what you're doing? There's got to be somebody that doesn't like it, right? I mean, it could be your mother. I don't know.
It's probably the hospital administrators, because we're focused on the 75 million outpatient procedures that are done each year in the U.S.
And so this is going to encourage more outpatient, which is less business for hospitals.
Right, and they don't really care because, a big giant hospital, they've got a limited number of operating rooms.
They're pretty full up anyway, right?
Yeah.
So your biggest barrier is probably just education and maybe fear.
Yeah, I think that's it. We've initially we thought, well, gosh, the self-funded employers will love us because if you're a self-funded employer and you've got an employee and they need a knee replacement that's $45,000. You probably get a better orthopedic guy, rock star orthopedic doctor. He'll probably do it for 17. You do it less than 20 for sure.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about the philosophical part of this, which is really interesting. I'm talking with Thomas Farmer. What is your role with Healora?
I'm the CEO and founder.
The CEO and founder. Okay. Thomas Farmer. The company is Healora, HEALORA.com. And anyone can use Healora.
Sure.
Okay. Is there a cost to the end user, the patient?
No, our service is done on a transaction basis, so that at the time of the service, when you choose the service and reserve the price, that's when we take our transaction fee, which is included in the total price. Everything's transparent.
So there's no hidden fees, like when I book a flight and then I find out that I have to pay to use the bathroom.
Exactly.
Okay, which happened to me on the way too.
Seriously?
No, but it was like that. I mean,
it's almost like
a cup of coffee was $3, which I don't mind that, and there was a place to tip the flight attendants.
That's funny.
Wow, I mean, here's another transformation in another marketplace, but I like yours better. So there seems to me that there's even a philosophical thing going on here, which is you're not only empowering patients to save money, but I think that the more we're in touch with what's happening with our bodies and the care for them, maybe the better some of us will take care of our bodies. And I think the current scenario with healthcare is I can't even figure it out. So
it's like a phone bill.
I feel hopeless. And your system is not hopeless. It's actually pretty clear, simple, honest economics.
Yeah, it's very simple. We're reconnecting the doctor and the patient.
Yes.
Just in a direct binary relationship. We're not a better third party. We're removing ourselves as a third party. So we're just putting those two together, and it encourages, wherever you introduce a market mechanism, you increase quality and you reduce cost.
Yes. So where are you in your business rollout? When did you start? What stage are you at? You're at a crowdfunding conference, so I'm guessing you're looking at that as a way of capitalizing the business?
Yes, we're trying to learn a little more about it. We started about 2 years ago, had the idea. Since we launched, we developed the website. We validated the product by having users pay for the service. And we've signed up, in LA County where we're doing our pilot, we've registered over 100 specialty physicians and a dozen surgery centers. And so now we're looking at going to sort of a next round to further expand what we're doing.
And what is your background? How did you get here? Because this is a
funny.
Really not just anybody would think of this, right? I mean, it took something to get here and realize it was a scalable model.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I never thought I'd be in healthcare. My dad was chancellor of a couple universities in the health sciences, and in the year he died, he was the chairman of the National Association of Academic Health Centers. And he always dissuaded me from being a doctor. So my background is financial sales, and then I got into this because I strained my knee several years ago, and I thought I had phenomenal insurance. I was paying a fortune for it. And I followed the path, went around. I had MRIs and even an X-ray, which is kind of silly for a soft tissue injury, but I didn't play doctor. And I just let it go. And then by the time I got to the third doctor, who was the knee arthroscopy expert, I had spent out of my pocket $1,800. And I don't know.
Sounds low to me in LA for everything.
Well, the billings were $15,000.
Okay, now I understand.
And then the deduction, they give you a discount,
yes.
Right? So the discount brought it down to, it was 60%. It was $7,200, I think, was the number. So, and in fact, in California, that's another good number. Hospital billings for a service are 8.32 times Medicare. And then they give you an average of 64% deduction. And then it ends up being about 300% of Medicare. And by the way, we target, when everything's all in, our prices are less than half of that. It's about between 140 and 150% of Medicare. So, and that's everything all in.
So you're a CEO for the first time?
No, I've owned and exited several businesses.
So you have business experience, just not healthcare experience.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. So I hurt my knee this morning. I live in Redondo Beach. I'm making this up.
Right.
And I'm listening to this interview, and I'm going, I'm going for it. I'm going to Healora.com, and I'm picking my doctor who going to do the thing, whatever it is, an MRI, I guess.
Right.
Do I have to ask my insurance company permission?
No, not at all.
I mean, there's no... I'm free... I have personal freedom in this matter.
Absolutely.
I don't need their authorization or anything. I just go do it and send them the receipt.
That's true. And most of the time, you're probably going to be going to a primary care doctor, and you're going to be complaining of something. And then the primary care doctor is going to say, oh, well, you need to see an orthopedic guy. You're probably going to need some kind of arthroscopic procedure or something going on there in that knee. You know, I'm not an expert, so you need to go see an orthopedic guy. And then at that point, you know you really are targeted in that area and you need to see a specialist. And that's where you'll start to look and say, okay, how much is it going to cost me if I need this procedure versus if I just, pay it directly?
Right. And when you say cash, does that mean credit card, check, or am I literally walking in with Ben Franklin's? Or is that up to the individual doctor?
Yeah, all of the above. You can,
So if you want the miles, you can go look for a good doctor who can do your procedure at a good price who takes credit cards.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And keep in mind that there are really two components here that we're trying to push. It's not just the cost, it's the access. Because most people who have insurance, they're very limited to an in-network group. So...
Right. But I mean, the point I want to make is you have to have the cash to pay the cash.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Well, right now, 1 out of every 3 people who need a procedure are putting it off because they can't afford to use their insurance.
Yes. Right. Been in that boat. It's a really unpleasant place when you're in pain.
So if you can cut that in half, more of those people will probably be able to do it.
I hurt my back a few years ago. I was in L.A., and I had bad enough that I had to be taken to the hospital in an ambulance.
Oh, my goodness.
And I wasn't screaming in pain as they dragged me out of my cousin's house to put me in an ambulance. I was screaming that I can't go in an ambulance until January.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
I wanted to go against my deductible in January, not in November. It was the day after. I really wasn't concerned about. I was concerned about the finances, but I knew I could pay it. But it was really a moment of realizing, I'm in great health, but for people who have real health problems, to have been in the situation I was in and to literally realize I couldn't take care of myself because of the cost was a lesson for me. Went from being academic to very real.
Yes, and we don't learn lessons, unfortunately, all of us.
Without pain.
Without pain.
I had pain.
And for me in particular, it takes a lot of pain for me to learn that lesson.
And I have a pretty high tolerance, so for me to need to go in an ambulance you can imagine, it was not a pretty sight.
Yeah.
His name is Thomas Farmer. He's the CEO and founder or co-founder?
Founder, and I do have a co-founder, yeah.
Okay.
Who, by the way, is a double board certified surgeon, been on Yale clinical staff, studied engineering at MIT, and
so you did the smart thing. You went and got a partner who knew the healthcare side of this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And so he can also just tell you, no doctor's going to go for that. We got to make it this way.
Yeah, he has a lot of insights. He's 30 years experience in a practice. So,
and you are not currently crowdfunding. You're investigating crowdfunding?
Correct.
Okay.
We actually did a crowdfunding we did it in January. We not that successfully, by the way. And
I bet one of the things you learned is there's a lot of things you have to look at to figure out why you weren't successful. It may not mean that crowdfunding is not a good solution. It may be, we didn't do it very well or missed our message or our market or something.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with crowdfunding is you have to have a crowd. So we just thought, hey, if we build it, they will come.
Yes.
So
worked for Kevin Costner.
Yeah, exactly. We got to get the word out.
Well, it really is. It's a fascinating business. And I wish you the best of luck. It's Healora, HEALORA.com. Thank you.
Well, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this encore podcast presentation from Forbes Books at ForbesBooks.com.